Welcome back, everybody, to another season of Pursuit Live. I'm your producer, Chris. Joining me, as always, is our show's creator and my co-host, Mr. Dave Hawkins.
What's up, killers? What's going on? Happy Friday night.
And we have a spectacular guest for you tonight. To kick off season 4, we are joined by the one and only Kristy Titus. Kristy, thank you for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. Am I number 1 for the new year?
Absolutely.
That's it.
Way to go, 2025.
Top tier.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. So we know you've been busy, but we're very excited to have you on tonight. And thank you again for taking the time to share with us.
It was my pleasure.
Producer Chris, how we doing, buddy?
Well, we're doing pretty good. Listen, all right, so hunting season is over for me.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a great year deer hunting. I did have a great year deer guiding.
You did.
And I did have a great year safari hunting, but
yes, you did.
Everybody already knows about that. So, for me, we're moving into a new chapter here in 2025. We're starting off season 4. We got a lot of good things in the works for you, and we wanted to come out of the gate strong. So here we are. And Kristy, again, I know it was a little bit of a some back and forth, making sure that we can get this schedule to work. But again, I just want to take the time right up front to say thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I just had to be home for more than 5 minutes to make this work.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your patience.
No, absolutely. Before the show, you got to meet Rob, our production manager. Yeah. We always like to give Rob a shout out. His job is very demanding, but he does so much for the show and the team behind the scenes. He is the one that honestly, once we decide on a guest and we're committed to one, he's the one that really formulates the schedule, stays on top of the schedule, reaches out to the guests like yourself, Kristy. So as always, Rob is as much of a part of the team as Chris and I, and we make it happen together. So big shout out to Rob as always. So I think at this point, Chris, you want to touch on anything before we get going, or are we good to go?
Well, I guess we did promise some things in the season 3 finale that we were going to talk about. We did bring on a new team member. I don't know if you want to talk about that right now, Rob. I mean, Dave.
Hey, I'm Dave. Nice to meet you, buddy. How you doing? Yeah, let's we could touch on that real quick, and then we'll get Miss Kristy involved here with the show.
All right. So many of you know this guy, and listen, the things that he's been doing in the outdoors, he's in it for the right reasons. He lives and breathes everything that we stand for here at Pursuit Live, and he was a perfect fit. So we're actually pleased to announce tonight that we are bringing on Randy Kirk of Kirk's Hunts to the Pursuit Live team. He's going to be helping us out to bring you a better production, and we're ecstatic to have him on the team. So, Randy, if you're out there listening, thank you for coming on board. Everybody, please show him the same support you would us, and we're looking forward to another successful season with Randy's help now.
Absolutely, and that's just a sign for good things that's happening behind the scenes. The more, again, we talk about this, the more engagement we get from everybody, the dedication that everybody shows weekly to tune in, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or the whole show. We notice it, we appreciate it, and it gives us a chance to have guests like Kristy come on and really start reaching out to the hunting community and the outdoor community as a whole, and bring you the best guests and show we can weekly. So there'll be more to come with Randy. We're really going to formalize that a little bit more in the near future. But I think, Kristy, good evening, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
So as a lot of the viewers know, but if you haven't tuned into the show yet, I normally take the first segment of the show. And what we like to do is we really like to dive into the personal background of our guests. Obviously, each guest has a different background professionally in the outdoor space, but somewhere along the line, there is a story that led them up to where they are present day. And that's going to be your chance now, Kristy. You could start at any point. What got you into the outdoor space? What got you in the woods? What started that fire for you to get into the outdoor space?
Well, I guess for me, I was raised in the outdoors. So I started riding mules when I was like a little baby on the front of my dad's saddle. And so I don't know if you can see this picture behind me. That's some of my mules.
Nice.
And so the hunting was just kind of a really great way for me to spend more time with my mules. And so, I grew up packing into the backcountry. We weren't geyser outfitters or anything like that, just, hobbyists. And
Okay.
so started out that way and have worked rather passionately my entire adult life into being able to do what I love and be blessed enough to earn a living doing it.
Where did you call home mainly when you were hunting? You say out west. What state in particular?
I currently live in Wyoming.
Okay.
And so when I visited Wyoming 3 years ago, I saw the landscapes and I met the people and or lack thereof,
Yeah.
Yep. Whichever way you want to look at it, but both and the politics in the state, everything just really aligned with me. It's a Second Amendment sanctuary state. It's a constitutional carry state, right to hunt and fish state. And as soon as I was on the landscape here, I knew that this was home. And within 6 months, I moved to Wyoming. So it's a great place, especially for having, mules and enjoying packing into the backcountry. I don't think there's a better place to live.
I'm going to ask a maybe obvious question to some, but for me, it's not so obvious. How come mules as opposed to horses?
I don't know. My dad always had mules.
Okay.
Mules are just very handy for what I do. They're extremely sure-footed. They're very smart. They're the ultimate four-wheel drive, if you will. And I have both mules and horses.
Okay.
But like I have one horse who's currently retired after 21 years of service to me. And then I have a young filly that's up and coming, mostly just to keep the mules in camp. But they're just extremely, like if you get into a bad spot and you're in a slick trail or things get really rough and rugged, I want to be on a mule.
Okay. Yeah, they're very utilitarian. I knew that, at a basic premise. And they
can
handle the workload.
Like self-preservation. So they're not going to do anything that will harm themselves, which ultimately will lend, more protective characteristics to you as a rider.
Okay. And now, is there an advantage to using the mule? Like, are you able to use like a side-by-side or a quad on the land where you hunt, or is that prohibited? Or you just find that the mule is more practical?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Like there's state land where you can have side-by-sides, and then there's places where they're prohibited and you have to go with either your quads on your legs or or on a mule. And the thing is in Wyoming where quads are prohibited or ATVs are prohibited, you also can't use e-bikes. So there's a lot of people that were like all in on buying, I'm going to get an e-bike and this is going to be great. And then, oh wait, it's they're not allowed anywhere else. They're in Wyoming. It's not any more inviting to use them than it's just an ATV.
Right. Well, that's a good little note. You got to do your homework, That goes to any hunting zone that you're going into. Know the rules, the regulations, wherever you're going. All the way down to the mules or the e-bikes it goes. So as far as like your hunting journey, obviously I know you do a lot with a rifle, you do a lot with the bow. Do you have a preference? Is it just depending on what your journey is? Do you, would you rather take your bow out if you could?
I would always depend. So I love archery elk hunting, and I love archery whitetail deer hunting. Like those are my two things that I just love. Like you put me in a deer stand with a bow during when the deer are chasing, I will be shaking. Like I'm so excited to be there.
Nice.
But I love shooting guns and I love shooting sports.
Yes.
So I shoot for Ruger, Night Force, and Hornady on the rifle side. I shoot for Bear Archery on the archery side, and both. All the companies I work with, I'm extremely proud to be working with. But the rifle stuff really kind of. I was always a hunter, and I started doing some TV, and I found myself in a couple situations on hunts where I was not. My personal limitations didn't allow me an opportunity to harvest an animal because the shot distance or the situation was just beyond what I was experienced and comfortable with. And so I started taking and went very, very serious with my firearms training. Started training with Magpul and did a lot of long range precision rifle training with them for numerous years. And then for fun and just to be a better hunter, I've competed in divisions like Precision Rifle Series, the National Rifle League for NRL Hunter. And so I've done a lot of, some competitive shooting as well. I've competed in extreme long range rifle shooting as well, which Night Force has a really fun match in Wyoming every year.
Nice.
Awesome. People should come. And so, I like doing both. I shoot TAC every year and just
Saw that. Yep.
fun event. So good luck prying either out of my hands, but I love both. But I think it's really hard to beat the adrenaline rush from competitive shooting sports. Like,
okay,
it is truly addicting when you have a rifle in your hand and you have a timer and the buzzer goes boop. Yep. It simulates, the most exciting of any hunt that you could ever experience. Like, once that buzzer goes off, it is full adrenaline dump, and it's tough to replicate that with a bow, in my opinion, except for when you're in like the field.
Right. Well, man, shoot, I think she already prefaced episode number 2. We could talk about, your competitive shooting aspect.
Yeah.
We'll get you back on for that. See that? Job security, Chris. I got it.
Yeah.
So, no, that's very interesting. And the fact that you're able to work with top shelf companies like Ruger, Hornady, Magpul, all these companies that, you can't ask for anything else, whether it's a training aspect, the quality of the materials, and honestly, the weapons, the optics, I'm sure. That is, I guess that's why you were smiling ear to ear when you were talking about it, because it's a true passion of yours.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
It's very fun. Yeah.
As far as like the hunting terrain, like let's say for like a typical whitetail hunt that you would go on, are you pulling a lot of elevation? Is that why the mules become so necessary? Are you guys actually camping out like overnight on certain hunts? Like, it's obviously me being from New York and honestly on Long Island, where it's an island, it's flat, it's mainly beach and very, very flat is the best way to describe it. So I've never experienced any type of mountain hunting. So I'm always interested and intrigued to hear like what like an out west setting or an environment you come across during your hunts.
Well, the fun thing about out west is you're going to find a mixture of both. So the great thing is, if you have a limited physical ability, it does not preclude you from being able to come out here. You can do great things like antelope hunting, and that's a truck-based hunt. Like, you're going to drive around and look at lots of and cover miles, or you can go hunt whitetail, and it's very similar to what you're going to find in the Midwest. This year I hunted whitetail in Wyoming, literally in the city limits, so I had to go get permitted in town, and I had to like go through all of these like prerequisites to hunt like in town in someone's backyard. It was super random. So there's both, there's both, and so that's one of the great things about living here. But then also, like, the mules are this excellent vehicle, if you will, to get me into super remote places, off the beaten path, places that, 10 plus miles where most folks aren't going. If you're on foot and you harvest a bull elk 10 plus miles from your vehicle, that's an amazing feat to get that animal out in an ethical amount of time.
Yeah.
Of course, depending on the weather conditions, if it's October and it's cold, you have more time than if it's September and 80 degrees outside.
Exactly.
So the mules are just a fantastic vehicle. There's a pro and con with having them in the backcountry, because sometimes they're also a pain, because you have to feed them, you have to water them, you have to care about them. When you tie them up, you are obviously concerned about their well-being and the status of what they're doing while you're gone.
Yep. Do you have any predator concerns while you're out? Like, do you have any mountain lions or anything like that as far as the mules are concerned?
No, not with the mules. I don't worry about them. In grizzly country, there's different precautions that you take. But where I'm at in the state, it's not a concern. I did get stalked by a mountain lion a couple of years ago when I was going to the bathroom, which is super weird. So I carry a pistol all the time with me now. And so, but by and large, mountain lions and black bears they're going to be very avoidant of human interaction.
Okay. Yeah. Mountain lions. I don't know. I don't count. I joke here on the island. I'll deal with the Karens in the world. Everybody else can take the wolves, the coyotes, and the mountain lions. But
on my side of the state, we don't have wolves either. So it's in Wyoming is a really interesting state. So depending where you're at in the state, if you're in certain parts, like where I live, you don't even have to have a hunting license. Like, if you see a wolf, you can harvest at will.
Really?
And then there's some parts of the state where it's completely a protected species. And then there's other parts of the state where they have regulated hunting. So it just really depends where you're at in regards to wolves.
So you really have to do your research before every hunt. Really know whether do you use what type of mapping system do you use? I believe you work with Onyx a little bit.
I do work with Onyx, yeah.
Now on Onyx, with these premier memberships that you get, is there a very designated zone that you can see using Onyx that lets you know exactly where some of these regulations fall, like with the wolves or anything like that?
So the nice thing about the layering system is you can look and it, like if you have an antelope tag, it will pull up all of those units. And so you can be sure that you stay in your boundary unit.
Okay, good.
And then you could swap that layer when season changes to mule deer or elk or whatever. So yeah, there's the different layers that you can utilize. I pretty much live with Onyx and especially like I was using their compass tool because a lot of what we hunt out west is very checkerboard. So you'll be sitting on a piece of public and 400 yards away, you might be looking at an elk, but he might be on private land.
Yeah.
And so Onyx, if you don't have some of these new laser rangefinders, Onyx has a compass tool, which is really cool. So you can actually take that animal, point the compass tool at it, get the distance, manually enter it, and then identify if the animal's on public or private. They now have some new laser ranger finders that they're working with that where you actually range the animal. It will put a pin in your Onyx.
Really?
Which is great for recovery too, because like if you shoot something and it runs down 50 yards, you can actually laser range where your shot was fired and actually work that backwards towards a blood trail. And it takes a lot of that guesswork out of what you're doing because this country is really big and like you could be in one spot and as you make your stalk or you make a move, things look totally different. And can be very disorienting.
Right. Now you got to try and find the nearest ranch owner, whoever's piece of property that is, or whatever.
Well, if your animal's on private land and let's say it was on public when you harvest or when you shoot and it does run on private, you have to get permission regardless. So,
exactly.
But the tools, hopefully, that doesn't happen. And but actually I had it happen this year for my first time. I shot a deer in Montana on public and it literally jumped over the fence and it died over the side of the fence on private. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like it jumped the fence and went and I freaked out. So I called the game warden and the game warden got me permission to retrieve the deer. But that's not always easy to do.
No, there's a lot of stories where the homeowners will refuse permission, but for whatever reason they have, whether it's an anti-hunting stance or I don't know what the other reason would be. All right, well, what are you going to do with this dead animal that's just sitting there getting wasted now?
Well, and that's the other nice thing about Onyx is at least you can identify when you do call a game warden, hey, this is the landowner, or if you don't call the game warden, if you can just try to search the landowner information, who owns it, and contact them yourself or just knock on doors.
Right.
But so it's a very valuable tool that, I would get lost without it. But besides that, it allows me to hunt in places that, the corners are a little tight, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I use Onyx myself. I got my father using it, my brother using it. It's for a lot of suburban style hunting like we do. It's worth every penny, and it's not even that expensive. I'm lucky. I only need one state to download, for New York, but it's very reasonably priced. Once you really start learning how to use the layers and all the tools that are really on there and integrated, it's amazing. You can do a lot of your research, a lot of your homework right here at home. And then you got to put the boots on the ground and kind of tie it together. I guess I'll finish up with probably two questions or so, and then I'll turn it over to Chris. What's one hunting experience, it could be from last year or recently, that you're very proud of yourself? It was a really big accomplishment, whether it was just something on a bucket list or just it was a tricky hunt, but you managed to get it done.
Oh boy, I don't know.
Okay, that's a good question then. If I'm stumping you.
Yeah, I'm like I don't. It's just that's hard to identify because there's so many different things in hunts that make them all rewarding and then also challenging. I would think the most notable one for me was in 2017. It was my first year producing my TV show. And I had been in a snowmobile accident on a mountain lion hunt where I had been going in Canada and I was on this lake and I looked over and the gentleman beside me's snowmobile was spinning water out the back. And I thought we had broke through the ice and it was actually just kind of like overflow, but I didn't know. And I panicked and I put my snowmobile around a tree and I blew up my leg and instantly it froze. It couldn't move. And I spent, I had to have massive reconstructive surgery and I spent 6 months learning to walk.
Wow.
And I actually remember when I took my first steps, like, and actually was able to like bend my leg. Like I had to like consciously think about how to bend my leg. It had been frozen for so long that I was crying. It was just a really profound process. And so, but what got me through that, because I blew my leg up in January, and I had a moose caribou hunt that coming fall booked. And when I did that hunt, it was a huge accomplishment for me, because I went in and we were 100 air miles from the nearest road, and it was me and 2 women and my cameraman. And I harvested my moose. I packed the head, the hide, like the whole horn, skull, everything on my back. And it was uphill over a mile and back to where we had base camped. And we didn't have a cabin or anything. We had actually spiked out in tents, and we were hunting moose basically like sheep, because the moose numbers were just really funky that year and they weren't doing their normal thing. And I was like, well, that's okay. Let's just go where there's moose and we'll rough it. And so we packed that moose out. I hunted and I harvested a caribou. And, you know, after I shot my moose, the next morning I woke up, there was like 6 inches of snow on the ground, and it was a wild hunt. But just 3 women, you know, that far removed from any civilization or any help, and to have overcome an injury like that, I think was, you know, that hunt gave me something really to work for and to train for and to like not quit. So that would be one of the most, I think, pivotal hunts for me as far as being successful. And
that's a good way to put it. Right. Pivotal. I think that certainly qualifies without a doubt.
Well, and the mountains and hunting are so healing, and there's so many people that have different levels of physical ability. And, you know, I try to stay in really good shape, but not everybody is blessed with the same body or body type, or, you know, different injuries that have resulted over a lifetime of abuse on our bodies, military service, things like that. And, you know, one of the beautiful things about hunting in the mountains, it is truly therapeutic, and it allows you to realize just what you're really able to do, because the mind, if you can control your mind, your body is much stronger than you think. I mean, I've seen grown men use their hands to crawl up mountains that were amputees to hunt bears out west. Like, it is really incredible what the pursuit and what the passion of the outdoors will enable you to overcome and adapt and to continue to live and have that harmony in nature. It's a really beautiful thing.
Well, that was a hell of an answer, and you started off not sure what you were going to say. So well done. I got nothing to add to that.
Well, there you go. We'll just end it there. Thank you for joining.
Done. See you later.
See you later. We'll do this again soon.
Well, I'm going to follow up with one question. I did have a second question, and then Chris, I saw that question from Vito. We'll get that in 1 second. As a hunter, you know, we're always trying to improve on something. There is always something we can improve on, some more than others, and I'll raise my hand to that one. If you're okay with the answer, what's one aspect of your hunting that maybe you could improve on? You know, it could be for any species, but is there something maybe that you got from this season? Like, maybe next year I'll work on that a little bit more, or I could have taken that situation a little bit better, or just something you learned out in the field.
Yeah, I think, you know, the biggest thing is, like with shooting sports, our technique and our skill sets are perishable. And so I don't think that one can ever rest on your last year's success, or in some situations lack of success, because a lot of success is attributed to just being lucky, right? And so for me, I just really try to have a year-round focus on what I'm doing. So I try to take care of my body year-round, my fitness, and then my equipment is really important. I shoot year-round, and with a bow and a rifle. And this year I probably didn't do as much shooting as I could have. And so next year I want to kind of pick up my rifle and do a lot more shooting, because it really is important, especially as you get out west and you get into tricky spots where, like, perhaps you're on an antelope hunt and you find yourself, you know, you can't get prone because you have a bunch of sagebrush in front of you and your antelope's 400 yards away, and you haven't practiced shooting off a stick at 400 yards for a while. And now here you're doing it live on a hunt. That's probably not the best place to to have that first encounter. And so I think it's really important for people, and myself specifically, is to always keep training. Another thing I really like to do is, prior to going on any hunt, I like to validate my rifle. So I want to zero the rifle on the bench at 100 yards, and then I want to walk it out. My farthest target of my house is 1100. So I'll walk it out, validate it at 1100, and then I like to go onto my barricades and practice a few positions that are more realistic hunting situations.
Sure.
And so do some standing shooting, that 400, 500 yard range and just really kind of just because, balancing your recoil, having good reticle management when you're on target, all of those things help you identify those limitations really quickly, whether you're in a vital zone or not. And so training and just having that acuity and that speed, my goal when I'm on a hunt, if you guys watch me on my TV show, Pursue the Wild, when I'm hunting, if I'm on an active stalk with a rifle, I've got a tripod. I don't mess around with like bipods or monopods. Well, I do a bipod on the fore end of my rifle.
Yeah.
If I'm standing, it'll be on a full tripod and it's heavy. It's not super lightweight. I mean, it's the lightest weight I can muster, but I want to be able to throw that down and be on target and be executing a shot in sub 15 seconds. I mean, that's the goal, right? And so I want to train for that so that, if I'm hustling up a hill and a deer's getting ready to jump into the timber, I can throw my sticks down and execute a shot, range, dial, and shoot and have that point of aim, point of impact accuracy, and know when I break that shot, hey, my reticle was in the danger space. I'm cool. I'm floating limit to limit. I can press a trigger with confidence. Or, hey, you know what? He's going to have to walk into the timber because I can't hold where I need to be vital. And so training at home gives you that confidence, and then ultimately the better ethics and judgment when you're hunting.
Very good. Very good. No, it's, again, well said. It's I don't do a lot of rifle hunting myself. Chris is could probably touch on that more, being former Army. It's I only got into it a couple of years ago, but it's close range, 100 yards or less, with a 308, and it's not easy. I grew up, shotgun hunting, deer slugs, deer drives, and making that transition into the rifle world. It's like you said, it's not just something you can pick up, put it down, and get back into it. It's
the 20 rounds a year that a lot of people cycle through the rifle is just, especially in Western conditions when you're dealing with slopes and, just little things like having a bubble level on the side of your rifle to let you know if you're actually shooting level or not, if you're canting your rifle. And so all of these things, really add up to better success downrange and better hunting opportunities. Absolutely.
So it's, I give you a lot of credit, just talking about the yardages that you shoot at and, all the prep that goes into it behind the scenes, it's inspirational. Men, women, anything. It's proof that you got to put the time in, whether it's archery hunting, rifle hunting, pistol shooting. I think it's overrated. Pistol shooting is not easy to be effective.
Oh, if you can shoot a pistol well, you can easily shoot a rifle. Pistol shooting is much more difficult.
Yeah. So without a doubt, and that's going to lead us into one question that we pulled in off of Instagram. I think I'm officially going to tap out. We'll let Chris take over.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely.
All right. So I will take that. And our resident shooting instructor, Silver Lake Tactical, did have a question for you, and I'm going to expand upon that a little bit. So what pistol are you carrying into the backcountry, and then what caliber are you looking to carry? For your maximum stopping power versus, portability and handling.
So if I'm in grizzly country, I have a GP 100 10 millimeter. And how I carry that, like when I'm riding, is I have a belly band. And so I put it on the outside of my top. And that is a very large revolver. And so I'll just keep it underneath my chest, and it rides on my stomach, and I keep that close to me and in my belly band at all times. Just because that GP 100 off my side, when I'm like getting on the saddle and I've got my leg and I'm trying to have some movement with my leg, I feel like it's such a large revolver for a sidearm that it kind of gets in my way there. So I find it's better on my stomach. If I am hunting, like if I'm looking for something more stopping power for like a mountain lion or potentially a black bear, I do the Ruger LC 9 millimeter, not 9 millimeter, 357. The LCR, a revolver from Ruger, is my go-to on that one. I like revolvers because I don't like slides. in that situation, particularly because I don't want anything that I could accidentally catch clothing on, just because I often am wearing a lot of bulky clothing, and I feel like a revolver is just very safe and very, it's just going to run, it's going to function. So it's a lot less opportunity for any kind of malfunction with that.
Okay. Now I'm going to hit you with a real technical question, and I ask everybody this, and believe it or not, people struggle with this. So, what are 3 things that you have to carry with you on every pursuit, aside from like your license and your weapon, the obvious? 3 things every pursuit that's always with you, whether it's in your pack or your pocket. What do you have to carry?
Is this like beyond like basic gear? Is this like some weird thing that I've got?
Your most essential gear.
So this is like, I'm going to go outside of like gear, possibly a little bit like on this. But I have to have Onyx because I would get lost without it. Like number one gear for me, especially if I want to go alone and have independence and confidence. I know that I can pin where my car is, or I can pin where I'm going. I can get to that spot safely in and out. I can do a breadcrumb trail. Like, especially if I'm worried about it getting dark, I can get in and out and follow the same route I went in on. So things like that, like I like having the ability to feel independent. So Onyx really gives me that. But like weird things that I carry, Kleenex, cherry chapstick. Like my cameraman this year, I think, wanted to kill me because we were hunting whitetail and I was using chapstick. And he's like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like you have chapstick on.
It smells like nose jammer.
I'm like, look.
Listen, that's not out of the question because I carry it. And when we had Butch and Kylie Whiting on,
yeah,
that was what she said. I pulled it out, and she was like, "Oh, that's Aquaphor." I carry it. As soon as I pull it, like, yeah, it's the exact same one. I can see it from a mile away.
So somebody asked about my belly band that I was carrying. So one belly band I have that's just like multi-purpose. It's an Allen brand. It is very cheap. You can buy it at Walmart. And so I have an Allen belly band that is really, you can fit almost anything in that thing. It's amazing. And then I do have some belly bands that are angled that have Kydex holsters to them as well. So I've got 2. It just depends. The problem with Kydex is obviously it's plug and play for one firearm. With my generic cheap belly band, if it gets sweaty and I wash it and it like misshapes or whatever, I just toss it and just go buy another one. And it fits all my revolvers. I can also run my like semi-automatic slides and some of those in there. But like if I'm carrying for jogging, there's a lot of concealed carry leggings that are designed around the LCP platform, which is kind of that super compact pistol that I'll carry, if you will, like EDC in a 380, so that it's not quite as big, because I'm not always carrying in the mountains and needing, a heavier firearm. So hopefully that answers those questions as well.
Yeah, if you're jogging with a 10 mil on you, God bless you.
No, you're not jogging with that on. No, you're not.
God bless. Yeah, you're good, lady. Go ahead. Cross the road. I'm good. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll wait.
And I'm an outside the waistband carrier. So if I'm carrying my LCR, I will carry that on my belt outside the waistband. And that's pretty comfortable because it is a smaller frame. It's not that big, giant GP100. It's not, it's easier to have there and keep my movement and my range of motion. And you don't even notice it.
I would love to live in a state with just the simplicity of, the everyday carry, with training or whatever the regulations are. It's just a way of life.
In Wyoming, you just better assume that everybody has a firearm because it's constitutional carry.
Yeah.
Everybody can have a gun.
In New York, we assume everybody else is carrying as well. It's just
exactly.
We want carrying.
And I was in Walmart the other day and there was a guy carrying, and I almost like outside the waistband, like totally open carry. And I almost wanted to like thank him, like, thank you for carrying a firearm. And, we need people like you that are armed, but I didn't. I thought about it.
Now, just out of curiosity, is there any mandated training, like every year or so you have to go for a qualifier or anything like that?
No, Wyoming's constitutional carry.
So that constitutional covers it. Okay.
You come here and you can carry a firearm.
Okay.
They do have a concealed carry program here.
Okay.
So you can go through that as well if you want.
Okay. I'll ask you, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think any type of training would maybe benefit, maybe like the tapping into the other region that doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with the open carry or the concealed carry? Like, do you think if a training program was started, I know it gets into the battle of, well, then it's not constitutional carry, but maybe we always got to think about the other side of the world that we share with, and it's, if it could maybe take away some of these heated debates and issues and bring some awareness to it, maybe. Do you think that would help?
So for me personally, I'm all about training. I go to gun sight, I train, I practice drawing from my legging pants, and sticky holsters are great for, that. And you can practice with an inert firearm.
Right.
And so I'm always for training, and getting an inert firearm is a great way to train without having to, go through the whole, okay, we're unloaded, we're clear, snap caps, you're still going to choose your safe direction to train, but always, always, always train. And especially for how you're going to carry. So like for me, if I've got a sticky holster on in my leggings, I want to know how I can safely holster that firearm. And I practice that with an inert because it is a little tricky. And sometimes it's, you got to watch so you don't point the firearm towards your thigh. And, these are things to think about. And then obviously, if you're carrying outside the waistband, drawing, practicing, presenting the firearm, and then reholstering safely. And do you need to look it through? Can you feel it through? All of these things are very, very important. I don't tell anybody what they have to do, but I feel like as a safe, responsible firearm owner, it's our responsibility to be trained.
Okay. That's fair enough. Yeah. Thank you. Chris, I'll let you go back to it, buddy.
All right. Well, I'm going to circle way back, so we're going to go totally off the trail here with this. So we kind of talked about it before the show, and we were talking a little bit about Western Hunter magazine, and then that was where I first heard about you and started following your career. So I do want to get way back in your career when you first kind of took a dive into professional outdoor media, if you will. Like really, what was that moment, that spark that you said, this is what I want to do?
So my outdoor career started with conservation. So I've always been very philanthropic in I feel like as a hunter, we're the ultimate conservationists. We're the first crusaders of conservation. And it's really important for me as a hunter that if I'm going to take, I should also be, active boots on the ground giving back. And so in my early 20s, I was a part of Safari Club International, which to this day I'm still very active with SCI. And I think it's a great way to involve families also, working with conservation groups and volunteering. Like, it teaches children and families that there's something bigger than you and the value of land and resource stewardship. There's a lot of defining things that a lot of kids and families can really reap rewards from with that. And so I started doing that. I ended up on the board, my local chapter. I ended up working up to being president of that chapter. I went to Washington, D.C. and lobbied with SCI. And they have lobby day once a year where chapter members go and they lobby and discuss politics or different issues that are pressing for the year. So that's kind of the flagship to what I started doing. With that, I met and ended up doing some TV because I was so young. And TV really was, like, at that time, kind of just getting going. And I've also my parents were active members of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation from the time I was a kid. And so that's an organization that I've also been extremely invested in. So since I was 30, I have done some sort of, work with RMEF. So like going on 15 years now. And SCI is over 20 years now. It's crazy. But so both very actively involved in those things. So what happened was I ended up co-hosting Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's TV show because I was relentless. And I was like, look, you guys, you're going to do a TV show and you don't have a woman on your TV show, like, as a mentor and as a leader, and you really need a lady. And so I would not leave them alone. And so they had to, in order to like get rid of me, they had to bring me in, if you will. And so, so I co-hosted that TV show for 6 seasons with Brandon Bates. And primarily what I did on that, I did get to do some elk hunting, but I was there a lot of times just primarily as a show host, where I would take kids out or women out. and kind of help tell their own personal story, their own personal journey into hunting. So it was a very fun gig, if you will, for a number of years. And then after that, I just, well, in between, even before that, I guess I rebranded She Safari clothing. So it was She Safari, and I worked on the rebrand of that to She Outdoor Apparel. And I actually designed their current logo, or helped design their current logo. And then I helped Under Armour launch their women's hunt division. So I started on the manufacturing side. And then what I would do with She Outdoor Apparel is I would say, okay, if you're a store owner and you bring in my merch, I will do in-store seminars that will appeal to women, bring them in, and hopefully they buy product. And so that was a real big catapult for me in my career, because there literally was no women. Like the first time I did a seminar, I remember it was in Medford, Oregon, and the newspaper did an article about it, because they were like, oh my gosh, there's a woman talking about hunting in a store. Like, it was like a big deal. So that kind of combination of, having a sales and marketing background and doing the apparel side, that led its way into me doing the TV. And then when RMEF went to like a digital space, they kind of created an opportunity for me to go on my own. And I started Pursue the Wild in 2017, and we just filmed season 8 this year. And so I'll start filming season 9 this year, which is super wild to think about. But it was never intentional. It was only through service in conservation that I ended up where I am, because like one door kind of opened another and an opportunity arose. And like I said, at the time, there just wasn't a lot of women that were walking through that door.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next question. And it's obviously that this is a male dominated sport, if you will, the outdoors. What were some initial challenges that you kind of faced as a woman breaking into the industry?
I don't really feel like I had any challenges.
Okay.
Like, to be honest with you, I think there's not this great gender disparity that everybody wants to create. I'm not a polarizing politician, if you will. Like, I believe we all have equal opportunity, regardless of gender, regardless of color, regardless of anything. If we want something, we have to go after it, women, male, whatever you are. And so I don't really feel like I had any limitation. If you want to get a door to open, be relentless and keep knocking on it. And when somebody doesn't answer it, you go back to that same door if you have to, and change what you say a little bit, and hopefully it works this time. I mean, I just didn't. The big thing that I saw change in my career for women that really benefited us is gear. We had manufacturers that took notice and said, okay, well, we're going to make clothes that fit these ladies. My first hunting clothes came from the GI surplus store. They were old Army camo, and I had some dude's name on my chest pocket.
Right. That's or you bought like your dad or your boyfriend or your brother's clothes. It's huge on you.
Yeah. Like, so that's, where I started was clothing, and that's kind of my marketing background is in apparel. So I had a lot of, heart that went into helping design women's clothing. I worked with Cabela's for over 10 years. And I was the face of Cabela's for over 10 years and wore, the She Outdoor Apparel. At the time, they have other lines prior to that, Instinct lines and, all these things before they brought in She when Johnny bought that. So, I worked with him tremendously on the gear side, getting good footwear. But one thing I love about Ruger Firearms is Ruger doesn't make like a woman's gun. You'll never see Ruger, I say that, but you likely will not see Ruger say, okay, we made this gun for women, because they make firearms for responsible citizens, and a responsible citizen can be small like me or very big. And so what I love about their firearms is they make them to where they fit different sizes of people. There are small men that want to shoot a firearm made for a woman? I don't think so, right? Like, but they still need that size because they're small men, and it's disparaging to them. So I think the greatest thing that's happened is the gear has come a long ways for ladies. Like, look at the change in bows, the the awareness of draw lengths and poundages and the limitations that women have on energy because we have reduced and diminished draw lengths. And so, we've seen aero manufacturers come up with better gear. Okay, what is the energy transfer? How light can we go on an arrow but still have kinetic energy to penetrate and kill a bull elk? And so all of these things have really forced really fantastic innovation. And Ruger, Bear Archery, Ruger, these are companies that have really been on the front line of that. And I'm so proud to work with them because, you look back 20 years ago, what bows I was shooting was not great. They were slow. Like I couldn't shoot 45 yards very accurately, and today, I'm shooting TAC events and I'm nailing targets at 85 yards. It's awesome. And it's super fun.
Firearms company for women, precision rifles for women. All right. Just wanted to put that on my list of things.
Well, if you look at the Ruger precision rifle, this firearm was designed by a man that I think he had like 5 or 6 kids of all ages. That thing adjusts from like 11 inches to like almost 15 inches, the length of pull. Like it's just got a tremendous adjustment in length of pull because I can shoot the rifle. I can shorten it all the way down. And if you're 6'4", you can shoot the rifle and it fits everybody. And it
was designed by somebody with boots on the ground. Like it's been around.
As a family, and you want to bring your family into things, and you want your son shooting something. You're like, oh, I brought you this pink girl's gun. Here you go, Junior. You might be offended by that,
It's like Ralphie when he comes down in the bunny costume on Christmas Story.
Yeah, exactly.
You look like a deranged Easter bunny. Take that thing off.
Yeah.
No, I think it's true, but it's something as simple as the clothing. I think it honestly had more of an effect than maybe we even realized. It's almost, I don't want to use the word being inclusive, but in a way, it's like, all right, look, like we were making a clothing line designed for women. Like the women come, like we're inviting you to enjoy the space with us.
Well, I think that's one of the most important things because you have to stay warm.
Right.
And I'm working with Born Primitive on their clothing, and I am overjoyed with what they're making. Their women's fit, their cuts, everything is amazing. They're incredible. They're forward thinking. The brand is innovating. They're listening to response from really, really good Western big game hunters, and they're getting it right. And so it's a great company to be a part of and watching them grow and change. And the problem with women's clothing that I've seen over the years is that women have this big demand. And we want our own boots, we want our own clothes, but then they don't show up at retail. And so, when they go and they buy a men's version of something, it really diminishes the manufacturer's ability to provide those opportunities for ladies because they also have inventory and things that they have to have. So you'll see a lot of, you've seen it a lot in women's camo brands that launch a women's line and then they deteriorate and don't carry it through. And so one thing that I'm, really excited about, like with Born Primitive, is they're not doing camo, they're doing solids. And I'm hoping that has a big enough appeal for women that maybe don't even hunt, that are just hiking and enjoy the outdoors, that we can keep a line in business, because a lot of these lines, they come and go, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we're all about, the outdoor, keeping that outdoor spirit alive,
So I do want to, because we still got a lot to cover. So I don't want to let some of these things go by the wayside. But this is a 2-part question. So that's the first part. In your career, because you've been doing it for a little while now and you've been wildly successful, what are some lessons you learned along the way that maybe you would give to somebody who's just starting out, not even necessarily in the industry, but somebody who is just starting out as a hunter who's really just trying to get into it? I'll get to the second part after that.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is get invested in community, because especially like with a nonprofit group, if you think about joining a local chapter, a lot of the people that are really active in nonprofits on the volunteer level, they're older. I hate to say this, but that's just the way it is. And with that, they typically have disposable income and time. And so if you're young and you're enthusiastic and you want to learn, if you can plug into a nonprofit, a lot of times they're going to have members that are going to be overjoyed to mentor you. And they have the time, they have experience, and they have the grace to take you out and whether you're at the range for a day, you're shooting bows, or you're actually going on a hunt. I think plugging into community is really important. There's a lot of really great women's groups. So I have taught at several. Candy Yao does Northwest Ladies hunting camps. I've taught at those. I taught, Tana Grenda has a camp. I've taught at hers. Courtney Levesque, Her Outdoor Journey, has some groups. I do some hunting groups as well. And so connecting with some of these groups, and I think that's one of the best ways, if you don't know what you're doing, to learn. And these groups are popping up, and these events are popping up all over the country, like from shooting to fly fishing, hunting, field dressing skills, like all of them. I did a group this last fall. I took some women and I taught them how to properly mount their scope, set their eye relief. We zeroed their firearm. We trajectory validated at distance. I taught them how to use a Kestrel, how to get all their data. And then we went whitetail hunting after we did some tripod work and some positional shooting. And so it was really awesome to see them go from, they don't even know how to mount a rifle scope, right, because their husbands hand them their guns, to, okay, I know I need to have this thing at max power when I set the eye relief, and, all these little tricks, right? They know how to do it. They know the tools they need. They know how to mount their scope level with the appropriate, toolkit. And then now they know how to get out in the field and actually press the trigger and just be successful. And I think that ultimately is really rewarding. It's not probably the best environment to learn from a dad or a husband. I think it's better to learn from a third party.
Yeah. There could be some built-in friction there, without a doubt. Yeah. It's like the old hold the flashlight mentality.
Yeah.
All right. So now the second part of this question is, you've had a successful career, and I guess for lack of a better term, you've made it in the industry. What are some goals that you have for yourself in the future to take yourself from where you are even further in the outdoor space?
Well, so I am, I don't know, I keep adding things to my plate. So I produce 13 original episodes right now for my TV show, Pursue the Wild. That airs on Pursuit Channel and Wild TV, and then Carbon TV, YouTube, Facebook, all the places, right? Wherever you can watch. And then I have a new cell phone show, Our Wildlife, which is basically me, like I hold my phone. Tonight I was out because I did some really stupid thing, and I had turned off my frost-free water hydrant because my auto waterer for my mules, because my mules were in a boarding pasture for a couple months while I was hunting. And then tonight I went to turn it on and it was froze. And I'm like, oh, whoops. Like all these dumb things that I do at home or whatever, like these little farm ranching things, you guys, I'm out there.
It's real life though.
Yeah. Like putting up hay or training baby mules. And so I have that show, Our Wildlife. So I'm also filming that, which is really, really fun. It's more like the ins and outs of like my day. It's more of like an intimate, like weird look at what I'm doing, whether it's interesting or not. I don't know. People watch it. And then, and I don't have the hunting on that. It's just like farm ranch. And then I do a podcast called Wild and Uncut. And I do 20 some odd podcasts a year. So I do one every other week. So adding to my plate really is not, I'm not really adding to it. Although this year I am working with RMEF. I'm going to be contracting with them to do some stuff for their outdoor class. So I'll be teaching some backcountry techniques with mules and horses. So hopefully people can learn a little bit about that from me. And I've done, I've done Hunter Ed instructor. I've done content for IHEA, Hunter Ed. And so it just depends. Right now, I'm also producing a series for the NSSF, which is the National Shooting Sports Foundation. So I'm producing a small series for them right now. So I'm real busy.
Yeah, you're booked.
I'm just gonna keep going.
Good.
But I would love to see like more of that lifestyle piece of my life become more important, because I think, and then I'm trying to incorporate that into Pursue the Wild. So instead of just having like a 21.5-minute hunt, I'm trying to really show more of like what goes into that. So beforehand, like me validating a rifle at my range, me like training my baby mules how to pack meat, where like this last year was awesome because my baby mules were 2 and I have videos of them from 3 months old with back skins of whitetail on them to packing mule deer this year. And so like all of that stuff, like I'm really trying to focus on telling more of like that whole life approach that like Instagram and social media and like what you see just because somebody has a TV show, that's a moment in time. It doesn't show you like what goes into all of those things being possible, especially when you're, predominantly DIY hunting. So that's like been in the last 2 years been a really big shift for me, is like more of like the back end of what I do.
I don't even know how to follow. That was
Yeah.
He's just sitting there. I'm like, do we have an audio problem?
No, we just listen.
Right.
Sometimes we're like, all right, great answer.
But Western Hunter Magazine, that was one of the first places that gave me an opportunity. So they are amazing people, the editors and the staff of the magazine, and Wilderness Athlete and Chris Denham, that whole family. I still am with Wilderness Athlete. I've been with them from day one, and Western Hunter has been a tremendous family for me, and it's a tremendous resource still. But I started writing nutrition and fitness articles for them. I don't even know how many years I did it until it was just like they needed to bring somebody else in. I was, I wrote so much like I don't know what to say anymore, because I have a competitive bodybuilding and figure background, and I have an allied healthcare nutrition, and so I was trying to bring like all of these things I knew from like the bodybuilding world into Western hunting, and it was really fun.
Well, I mean, with as busy as you are, people are obviously noticing because you got nominated this season for a very, very cool award. And I think this would be a great time to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I've been honored with that. I won the Best Outdoorsman category, I think, was it 2 years ago? And I was nominated last year for Most Influential Female and Best Outdoorsman. And then this year I was nominated for Best Outdoorsman again. And it's such a tremendous honor. I mean, I'm up there with Jim Shockey. It's like,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Unreal. It's a really cool honor. And it's all viewer, follower, votes that go into making that happen. So it's truly like a tribute to like the support that you have in the outdoor community for what you're doing. Because there are some days you feel like you're treading water and you're about to just go under, and you're tired and you feel like this is what I'm doing even making a difference, and to just have that honor is really special.
How can people vote?
Well, you can't now. It's done.
Oh, that was done.
So that was in December. So I made the top 5, and so they'll announce who the winner is at the event. You can live stream it on the Gundy's website.
Okay.
In January, but I won't be there because I have an SCI overlap, and I'll be at convention in Nashville. So
gotcha.
I'm sad I won't be there this year.
Well, the best of luck with that. I forgot, once you get nominated already, the next time you hear from it is from the actual event. So
yeah, you're nominated, and then they have a voting period because you're nominated with a plethora of other people, and so you have voting period. And once that closes, then they tally up and they announce the top 5, and then the top 5 is who. Yeah. I mean, you never know who's second, third, and fourth. It's just you either want it or you don't. So,
right. Well, I mean, like you said, just to be in the same, I guess I'll call it the platform as a guy like Jim Shockey, all the other. I mean, that's testament to Carbon TV. I mean, I don't know exactly when they got established, but the amount of programming and the resources they have now at this point, it's truly impressive. Yeah, I mean, anything you're interested in the outdoor space, Carbon TV has it for you.
Well, they have podcasts and they have, the video. And so, you can watch and listen and stream.
Exactly.
And what I like about them is it's censorship free. So like one of the things, like my Facebook went down 2,000 followers last month.
Really?
Like, how am I losing followers every month? My Instagram has been the same number for like 3 years, like literally has not grown in 3 years. And the nice thing about Carbon TV is they don't deplatform you, and a lot of it is, these platforms, they're not free media anymore. It's all censored media. And the minute you show a gun, you talk about shooting a firearm, you promote a firearm, you show a grip and grin, they basically radio silence you, or you can't grow your brand or your following. And Carbon TV does not do that. They bolster and support and embrace the outdoor and shooting sports community. And it's such an honor to be with them.
Well, I do want to touch on something else because you do a lot. So I do want to get into your jewelry line a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is my jewelry. Well, this is one of the pieces for my jewelry line. And And I think I'm on like year 9 with my jewelry line. And I work with a company called Montana Silversmiths. It is the brand of champions. They have been an iconic Western jewelry line for over 50 years. We just celebrated our 50-year anniversary. And it's jewelry that I saw my mom wearing when I was a kid. Like when I started working with Montana on my jewelry line, they had pieces that I could add to my mom's existing collection from when I was a child. So it's iconic. They're the brand of champions, meaning all the belt buckles at the National Finals Rodeo, those cowboys take home a Montana Silversmiths buckle. It is the top of the top of when it comes to Western jewelry and buckles, and they're an incredible company. And when I approached them to do a jewelry line, they opened arms with me, and we designed my line. I wanted it to be different. So their traditional jewelry line is a plated sterling silver collection. And so I went in with the notion of, okay, well, I want my pieces to have more of an heirloom quality. So let's say you're a wife or a daughter or someone and you harvest your first bull elk. Well, maybe your husband buys this necklace for you ahead of time, and like you harvest your elk and he presents it to you. I mean, or like he buys it for you at Christmas, and you know, it's just something that reminds you of a special moment. And so I really wanted to get something that would have that heirloom and very special feel and a timeless feel with the solid sterling silver. You know, it's going to last forever. Yep. And it's been really fun. All of my inspirations, you know, we add to the collection every year. We change it actually 2 or 3 times a year. So we're always designing and implementing new jewelry styles, and everything is antler outdoor inspired. And it's totally unique to kind of that Western culture that Montana is famous for.
I don't know how you handle all that. That is a full plate.
Yeah. Well, I have a great distribution team. So Montana's amazing. They have 500 retail locations where my jewelry is sold, and they have a great team. I have the jewelry also on my website. So I have my own website store. So if you go to pursuethewild.com, you can click the shop tab and buy it there. But I have a great team. I mean, that's how I get everything managed, is because I have a great team of people. And I really believe that I wouldn't be where I am without the people I work with. And I hope that everybody I work with, they know that I love them, and I couldn't do it without them. I mean, my editor is my best friend, Jordan Budd, and she's with Running Water Media and Hunting, and she's my best friend, and she also does the same thing for a living. And my cameramen that go in the field with me, they're like my brothers, you know. And then my podcast editor has been a good friend forever. And so, you know, I have this great team of people that I love, and we work tremendously well together. One of my best friends helps me with newsletters and mail outs, and she was one of the co-founders of Girls with Guns Clothing. And so, like, I just have this great team of people that I cherish and love, and we work really well together. And that's really what it takes. You can't do all of this on your own. Even my hunts, you know, I rely on my mules. I rely on my family. I rely on my friends. Like, we're all in it together. And sometimes my poor cameramen, they get stuck alone with me in the woods. But you still manage to pull it off.
We can totally agree. I mean, obviously our scale is, you know, we're down here and you're all the way up here. But just the fact, like we talked about, you know, even us, we had to bring on Randy because it was of a positive reason. That's a sign of growth. It's a sign of, if we're doing something right, that, you know, we need to divvy up the workload even a little bit more. So it's without a doubt, the people you surround yourself with is going to be the path that you end up on.
And you have to just, I mean, it's hard. Like, I do everything myself. So every commercial that's produced, I do all the pre-production on it. I do all the storylining. Like, everything that I say in a script, I write it, I produce it. My newsletter that goes out monthly, I write it, I produce it. I do all of my own stuff. Like, I'm really hands-on with my brand. And then I'm like, okay, well, I need help, like, putting this together. So, like, my podcast editor, he's amazing. Like, I send him the content, and he actually, you know, does the distribution for me and some things that require a little more technology. Right. And so, but I really try to keep, like, a really heavy hand in everything I do so that it is authentic. Right. Because I really feel like when you are a brand, if somebody else takes over your social media, then you lose track of that. Like, I'm really great at answering Instagram messages, but if you message me on Facebook, I'm not going to answer your message. Like, I just don't.
Right.
I just don't answer those messages. And so, like, I have people, they're like, oh, well, your assistant answered me the other day. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
because I don't have an assistant. Or if I'm ignoring you, it's because you messaged me on Facebook and I don't answer those.
Right.
So hit me up on Instagram. And I promise you, if somebody looks or responds to a comment, it's me. And it is a lot. You do have to have, you have to have a good team. But it's such a blessing. It's so amazing to be able to do what we love and love what we do every day.
Well, you won't see me working off a script anytime soon, right, Producer Chris? Horrible. I am horrible. I'm great live like this. Put me on a script. Horrible. Can't do it.
There's some people like that. You put a camera in front of them and they're like,
yeah. I even made a joke about it. It was like that scene in Rocky when he was trying to do the commercials, and it took him like 50 cuts, and they finally threw him out of there. And it was like a 30-second commercial we had to do. It was horrible. Chris was ready to pull the plug. But meanwhile, I can sit here for an hour and we're good.
Dave had 6 lines, and it took us 2 hours to film.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was bad. Oh, it was real bad.
Dave!
Yeah, it was bad. But you put me like this in this environment? Yeah.
Hey, Dave, you know what? We all have a calling in life. That is not yours.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I'm good off the cuff. So
it's more fun. And that's one thing I love about my podcast also, is because I just get to sit down and I say things. Sometimes they're totally not appropriate because I wear my mouth on my sleeve. Like, I have zero filter. And so I love the podcast because my TV show, when you watch Pursue the Wild, it's very produced. And I have voiceover script, and it's not so much like off the cuff. And like my little cell phone show, Our Wild Life, is more like me, just a train wreck. And so I love those platforms because it is more fun, like,
without a doubt.
Be real.
I think at this point, because we touched on so much, I think it'd be a good time. Kristy, why don't you start talking about all the social media pages one more time? Make sure we get all the show names mentioned. Anything that you want to mention, social media wise, website wise, I think now would be a good time, and we could start closing it up.
Yeah, well, so my Facebook and Instagram and Twitter accounts, it's really simple. It's just my name, Kristy Titus. I didn't have some fancy name. When you go to like trade shows and you see people that you know from online, like your Instagram friends, and you don't actually know their name.
That's true.
You're like, oh, that's Rambo Barbie. Hey,
right,
Rambo Barbie. Like, you feel totally dumb, right? So I started social media before people had cool handles, and I just went with my name. So I'm really
it works.
boring. It works. Everybody knows my name because that's what I don't have like a sorry, Rambo Barbie. I was just using your name as an example. But you know what I mean? Like, we all know this, and we feel like we know people because of social media, and we don't know their name. We have their stage name. So
you don't know my stage name. We're not talking about
Dave, what is your stage name?
Next show. Gotta come on for episode 2 for that one.
I'm coming back.
All right, good.
So
Job security, Chris.
Kristy Titus. And then my YouTube channel is Pursue the Wild. And then I also have one called Our Wild Life, and it's with a W-Y-L-D because I'm in Wyoming and it's a wild here. I
was going to ask why that was, but good.
It's for Wyoming because I live in Wyoming. Wild.
There we go.
And I wish that when I came up with the name Pursue the Wild, I was in my 20s. I trademarked it, not even knowing that I would ever have a TV show. But I was with Cody Robbins when he started Live to Hunt, and I helped him kind of with that branding thing. Like, we were kids, right? He had just left Shockey. It was like, we were kids. And I was like, man, I want to come up with my own name because someday I might need it. And here I am. So Pursue the Wild, and then Wild and Uncut podcast, and then Our Wildlife is my lifestyle series. Yeah. And if you like mules and dogs, then you'll definitely want to tune into Our Wildlife. And I save turtles in the summer also.
Save turtles while you're at it because you weren't busy enough.
I was about to say, why not just?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see me. You can watch me save turtles in Wyoming. So.
All right. Producer Chris, what do you got, buddy? Did we have any questions that we missed?
I don't know. I mean, we're kind of talking about people looking different in person compared to stage names, and we're mentioning.
You said I was 3'1". All right, I'll take it.
Well, okay, so I rounded. You're Dave is.
And I just want to say there's no filter, okay? Like, that's one thing about these. Like, there's no, like, beauty filter
is live.
that you can even put on this. You're like, what?
This is live. As soon as we hit end, that's
how we do it.
This is
it.
One take and we're done.
We're not even really drinking tonight. Some nights we'll sit here with a bottle of bourbon and it gets really lively.
You know what? I want to come back for that one. I don't drink alcohol, but I want to watch you guys in that capacity.
Well, if you happen to see open mic night,
and I'll interview you.
There you go.
Okay,
sounds good.
That would be more fun.
All right, we're down. You let us know. So, Kristy, thank you so much. Seriously, I know we said it a lot, but we know it's it takes time. It's we took an hour out of your night, and but we just want to say thank you.
I got one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to invite everybody to a couple of trade shows that I'm going to be at.
Go ahead. What do you got?
Texas Trophy Hunters is having their first ever outdoor extravaganza. It's next weekend in Dallas, Texas. So if you guys are around, come to that event. It's a TTHA event, and it's going to be super fun. And then I want to invite everybody to join me at SCI, their national convention in Nashville, Tennessee, in later in the month in January here. It is so much fun. Come to Nashville.
I love Nashville. Don't tell me.
So fun. You have to come.
Well, it's got a soft spot in my heart.
Well, let's go play some country music. I will do karaoke with you.
Honky Tonk Central. Let's go. Bring it to Broadway.
Oh,
let's do it.
All right. I got to talk to the wife real quick.
Hurt the ears of people in there, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be Hunt Expo in Salt Lake City, Utah over Valentine's weekend. I have a booth there. So come buy some jewelry. So that was my 3.
Absolutely. Not a problem. That was the perfect time to do it. We want to make sure we share the love. This is what it's all about. We appreciate you coming on. Anything we can do in the future, like Rob was saying, to help support, you yourself directly or anything you have, social media wise. That's honestly what it's all about. Yeah. There's plenty of room for all of us to grow in this industry.
I think our biggest calling is going to be our duet, Dave. I think this is going to be when we go to Nashville and do this.
Oh boy. All right. Kate, we're going to Nashville.
Stage name.
Stage
name's coming out.
All right. I'll think of something good for you.
Chris is dying down there. I love it.
It's all right. He's got thick skin. He'll be all right. We're all adults.
I've done karaoke with Dave, so I know what it's like.
Yeah.
You're in for a treat.
Yeah. Chris will turn on Creed. He's our Creed influence. So, all right. Producer Chris, what do you got, buddy?
All right. So, Kristy, again, I know it was a little bit of a struggle getting you here, but we finally did it, and now we got.
It was so not worth it. I'm so sorry for you guys.
We got a lot more to plan for now, so
that's it.
Just thank you so much for taking the time out.
No, I appreciate it. It was fun. I had a good time, and I appreciate you guys. And anytime, we'll just, it might take me a couple months to come out of the bush.
That's all right.
It's okay, Dave.
Start of a good friendship. Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. If you're going on a fun hunt and you get success and you want to share the story, by all means, just let us know, and you have the open invite.
I know we didn't even talk about the hunting season.
Well, that's, again, job security. Now we got to bring you back for another episode. There's a rhyme and a reason for everything.
That's right.
So thank you again for joining us. Producer Chris, Empire Show. Why don't we touch on that real quick? Remind everybody where we're going to be.
Yeah, I guess we can. We have the Empire State Outdoor Sportsman Show coming up. Dave, what are the dates again? It's in February.
That's why I'm asking you, because I forgot. I think it's mid-February.
It's sometime in February, coming up soon. I'm sure somebody will drop it in the chat. And we're going to be there again with the Pursuit Live booth. We're going to be right by the front door. You can't miss us.
Oh, no.
Going live, so definitely check us out. Check us out there. Harrisburg, Great American Outdoor Show 25. We'll be there. We won't have a booth this year, but we will be in attendance, and we're hoping to meet up with a bunch of people, get a good group of folks, and we'll meet up, do the show, enjoy some drinks afterwards, and everybody can see how short Dave really is in person. They can hear me sing in person. It's going to be a blast.
Hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the ground. That's Chris's go-to.
That's what are they? You're launching your LP already, so
yeah. Yeah. Me and Chris have shared many hotel rooms together on the road, and I've heard way too much Creed recently. So I'll put it that. So on that note, before it turns into
With
open
that,
mic
before
night,
we get crazy,
that's
Kristy,
it.
again, thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun, and again, we're gonna have to have a part 2. There's gonna have to be more to this story because there's a lot more to be told. So thank you so much for taking the time out. Thank you everybody who tuned in tonight, and that will tune in the future. Again, thank you for supporting us along this far to the kickoff of season 4. We got a lot in store for you this season and next season. There's a lot of big things going on, in-person events this year. So, stick with us. Everybody that's still out there hunting, I know some seasons are over, some still got a little bit to go. Please shoot straight, be safe, good luck, and we'll see everybody next week right here on Pursuit Live.